The answer is no. No, really. Psychotherapy can be helpful, and it can help a person deal with particular issues, but what it cannot do is help the person understand the nature of being liable to having issues in the first place. That's what only Dhamma can do. That's why it said that Dhamma is beyond mere reasoning, beyond mere psychologization, really. But it's not. It doesn't mean that Dhamma is mystical, or it pertains to some sort of experience of higher realms or something. No, it just means that you understand the nature of the thought, the nature of feelings, the nature of intentions, the nature of perception. And in order to be able to understand it, you have to start stepping back from the pull of the content of your feelings, of your thoughts, of your intentions. So that's most simply described. That would define and that would highlight the difference between practice of Dhamma and pretty much any other practice, and in this case practice of psychotherapy. You don't want to be concerned with overcoming the content. You want to be concerned with understanding the nature of the content and your liability to it. So in that sense, and that's why Dhamma is a universal principle, universal being general, meaning in common. So what's in common to any perception that you can have, no matter how different, painful feelings, pleasant feelings, what's in common is that they're feelings. What's in common is that they're perceptions. So and that's how the Buddha did also describe the five aggregates. He said any form, past or future, present, far or near, dear or not dear, personal, impersonal, he knows form is there. And then it goes same for any feeling, any perception, any intention, any consciousness. So it doesn't matter the content, it doesn't matter the significance. What matters is the presence of the nature of that content. And that's how you truly overcome being affected by the content. So psychotherapy and all the other methods, can be rightly described as methods, can enlighten people in regard to the content and help them on that relative basis. But what they cannot do is enable one to understand the nature of it, because you can't at the same time be focused at the content and at the nature of that content. So if you're concerned with a particular type of feeling you're having, and trying to get rid of it, trying to understand it, trying to explain it, you cannot at the same time be concerned by transcending that content of that feeling and seeing the nature of it in the background. So you will either be looking at the foreground or at the background. You can't have it both. So that's what I mean. You cannot bring the understanding of Dhamma. And the more you engage with it, if you do it on the account of thinking you're practicing the Dhamma, means you're drifting away from the Dhamma further and further, because it's completely the opposite direction. It's looking at the general as opposed to being concerned with the particular. So in that sense, it cannot serve as a replacement. And also, you could see that the problem is not being affected by this particular issue, that particular issue. The problem is, the true problem, the fundamental problem is being liable to being affected by any issue whatsoever. So you might overcome many issues, but the fact is you don't overcome you being subject to further issues in the future. That's why the Buddha would say he recognizes he's subject to suffering, he's liable to suffering. Doesn't mean he suffers right there and then. It means he can suffer. That in itself, it's unpleasant and it's suffering. So that's why if one practices the Dhamma, psychotherapy, as in management in regard to the content, dealing with the content, becomes redundant, because you have uprooted the fundamental issue of being liable to these things. Thus, no amount of particular disagreeable manifestations of those things can affect you. So by practicing the Dhamma, you make any other method redundant. And conversely, it's not true, obviously. By still engaging in various methods of management, that indicates that the Dhamma hasn't reached fulfillment. And if you develop a view on account of those various methods being valid practices of Dhamma, means you won't be then finding what the real practice of Dhamma is. as in the one that's diametrically opposed to that direction of engaging with the particular content and issues that might cause concern. So it's understanding the nature of liability to suffering as opposed to trying to deal with the particular sufferings. And that can come through like taking up that responsibility and then seeing the difference in the opposite directions, the two approaches. One, okay, I'll either manage with this particular thing that bothers me, or I'll step back and start reflecting on the nature of being bothered in the first place. And that's basically the beginning of right reflection that can lead to the right practice of Dhamma. So if a person is able to distinguish these two things and can't help initially, but using various methods, psychotherapy and so on, to help themselves manage with things, that's absolutely fine. But it's not fine to mistake it, to confuse it with the practice of Dhamma. And as I said, I mean, yeah, the management is fine, but if a person focuses on the actual Dhamma and it starts putting it in practice and it starts getting the results, no amount of management will be necessary. It will be completely redundant, because if a person uproots greed, aversion, delusion out of their mind, nothing they do is unwholesome. Nothing can affect them in that unwholesome manner. So there is nothing for them to manage. Hence, they're free from burden of action, free from having to do something in order to be free, because they're now free.